Point spread betting is one of the most popular forms of sports betting. After all, our site, ATS, it's short for against the spread. In football and basketball, but even sports like hockey and baseball, you will see spread values available to wager on in just about every game. I'm Jay with ATS, and this is your guide to point spread betting. Now, with spread betting, every game has a favorite and an underdog. And of course, you can tell which one is which, depending on whether there's a plus or minus sign in front of their point spread value. Favorites will have a minus sign in front of their point spread value. And what this means is that points will be deducted from the total of that favorite if you wager on them. For example, let's say there's an NFL game going on. You bet on the favorite. They're favored by 6 points. To grade this market, 6 points are going to be taken from that favorite's point total if you wager on them. And then whichever team has the highest total after that handicap is applied will be the winner against the spread. Conversely, if you bet on an underdog in that situation, they would have 6 points added to their score if you see a +6 next to their name on the point spread market. What this does is kind of even out the playing field between two teams or two players in an upcoming sporting event. The point spread is set by sportsbooks based largely on the statistical projections for each team going into a game. And of course, things like injuries, things like weather, and just kind of the general sentiment surrounding each team can all play a role in helping shape that point spread value. But the goal for bettors should always be to bet whichever side they think is going to cover the number at the best possible point spread value they can. For example, let's say at the beginning of a week in the NFL, a team is favored by 3 points. It would be much more favorable to bet on them at -3 than waiting until the end of the week and say they're favored by 5 points at that point. Well, at 5 points, it's a lot harder to cover the spread than it is at 3 points. And that's something bettors need to think about when placing their point spread wagers. Not only who do they think is going to win, by how much, but where do they think the line is going to move leading up to game time. Now, there are actually 3 outcomes that can take place with a point spread wager. Of course, the favorite can cover the spread. They need to win by more than the point spread amount in order for that to happen. The underdog can cover the spread, which means either they win the game outright or they lose the game by fewer points than the point spread amount. So let's say an underdog is a 5-point underdog and they lose by 3. Well, if you add 5 points to their score, they would then have the higher number. They would win against the spread. But there's a third option. It's called a push. And this is when even after the point spread is applied, the two teams have an equal score. What happens then is sportsbooks refund everybody's wagers who bet at that number where a push was the end result. Of course, no bettor goes into a wager hoping for a push. Everybody wants to win every single bet that they place, but there is a second way that a loss can be avoided, and that is via a push. Now, when it comes to strategy, when betting against the spread, the biggest key for sports bettors is to create their own betting lines independent of sportsbooks. This can be done a few different ways. You can use mathematical formulas, you can use spreadsheets, or you can use your own intuition. I go the spreadsheet route. That's been the most successful way for me. And what you want to do to come up with these numbers is compile statistics for each team, right? See where their strengths and weaknesses lie. And what you want to do on top of that is combine some of those qualitative factors in with your statistical analysis. And that means looking at things like injury reports, looking at things like the matchups between each team, seeing where each team has advantages and disadvantages against one another and where that's going to play a role in these contests and where it's going to matter when you're evaluating the point spread. And then things like weather can play a role. If you are betting on a game where it's going to be windy, you're betting on a game where it's going to be snowy or rainy, that can have an impact in outdoor sports as far as a team's ability to hit a baseball or throw a pass in football. Factoring all those things in is huge and often overlooked by bettors who simply want to bet on the better team or bet on a team that they like. Doing the analysis is always going to be the most important piece of strategy that you can put together when wagering on the point spread or any betting market. And then one final piece of advice I would give when betting against against the spread is don't be afraid to mix things up, right? It's very tempting to bet a lot of favorites because they're considered the better team. It's very tempting to bet on underdogs because you're receiving points, right? You're having points added on to that team's score when grading this market. But at the end of the day, sportsbooks are really good at setting these lines, and you usually see a pretty even split between favorites and underdogs coming out on top in each sport. You have to do the work. You have to do the analysis in order to have success in this market, especially in the bigger sports leagues like the NFL and the NBA, where sportsbooks dedicate so much time and so many resources to putting together the most precise betting lines that they can. They're really good at it. Tough to beat the point spread in major sports like that, but if you put in the work, it's certainly possible. Of course, if you have questions about point spread betting, hit us up in the comments. We're always around to help you answer any questions that you have about sports betting. Of course, you can go to our website, ATS.io, for more information and for our latest sports betting advice, predictions, and other content. Until next time, this is Jay Sannon saying good luck on all your point spread bets going forward.